Okay.
And so it was literally right after that meeting, which was the end of February 1982, that a grand jury was started for the Marie Iannuzzi case, the 1979 murder.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Burke likes to claim that, it was a John Doe grand jury to see which of the two suspects, David Doyle or Leonard Paradiso, who was it. And that's false. Mr. Burke is absolutely representing that in a false fashion. It began as the Commonwealth versus Leonard Paradiso, and it wasn't until later that it was changed to a John Doe grand jury. They went after Mr. Paradiso first. And the thing that is very troubling to me is, they had no new information in that case. The only thing that was different was Joan's disappearance and the fact that an anonymous tipster had implicated Mr. Paradiso in both crimes. That's all that was different. That was all that was
That's all that was different, yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question in our chat room. It concerns her bag that was found in New York. Now, the bag, it wasn't found empty, correct?
That is correct. It had not been disturbed.
But the items that were found dispersed were more like her wallet, her purse.
Her purse and wallet were found on the Lynn Marsh Road. Her suitcase was found, if it was found in Boston, if it had been placed in Boston, it was in an entirely different area. That was downtown, and still not at the airport. She flew in. Her tote bag, she had a tote bag with her as well. That was never recovered. That was never found.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So by dispersed, I don't mean, her items within those things were scattered. I mean that they were just in odd and different places. Nothing was left with the body. Nothing was, thrown out in trash bins or whatnot. They were dispersed items, which was, the investigation in this case was all over the map.
Mm-hmm.
It was just everywhere.
So the prosecution is really going after Leonard Paradiso, and Leonard Paradiso was a 45-year-old former fish merchant. He and this is for the Marie Iannuzzi case, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So he was basically how you feel that perhaps he was railroaded. And they sent an innocent man to prison.
I believe that. I believe that now. At the time, all of the information that I got made Mr. Paradiso look like he was responsible for Joan. I did not know very much about the Iannuzzi case at that time at all. George and Eleanor did go and sit through that trial, so they had more information certainly than I did, but I really had no knowledge of it at all. When I came to the point where I doubted that Mr. Paradiso had anything to do with Joan's murder was at the time that they located her body, which was in 1990, and where she was did not match up at all with the informant that they so heavily used for both cases. It was known to be false at that time.
And that was Robert Bond, correct?
That is Robert Bond. He was the informant that came up with a story for both cases.
And he alleges that Paradiso confessed.
That's correct.
But when when everything came out in the wash, it didn't quite mesh anymore.
No, it didn't. Her remains were found buried. His story was that Paradiso had claimed to have murdered my sister-in-law on his boat in the ocean, and then ditched the boat a couple of days later. Well, the police officers had records in their files that the boat had been reported in July of 1981, months before Joan was on that flight. Whether someone would try and keep a boat, make an insurance claim and then scam them and keep it, later acquitted of insurance fraud on the boat. He did sink his own boat. It was not stolen as he had reported it. but they had multiple witnesses that the boat had not been seen after that July time frame, and the boat was recovered. When it was recovered in September of 1983, it was found intact. It had the name on the back. It hadn't been painted. The registration numbers were on it. So, if someone's going to pull off the perfect murder of Joan Webster, he was pretty stupid to have kept his boat right where he kept it. And they had marine studies on the boat. They found that the boat had a broken rudder. The explanation they gave, suggesting that Mr. Paradiso could have taken Joan out into the harbor and dumped her in the ocean, they knew well before they ever went to trial with Maria Iannuzzi, and they knew at the time they were still promoting the boat theory that was impossible. The boat could not have gone out.
And what kills me is that, of course, it's all a day late and a dollar short, because Paradiso began a life sentence in 1983.
No, not in he was arrested in 1982 and never released after that time, but he was convicted of the Iannuzzi murder actually in 1984. And really, looking back and being able to look at actual evidence and actual documents now, the things that they represented as being Jones were not. And there were only two things that really suggested Paradiso was responsible for Joan's murder. One of them was the Robert Bond statement, which is false. I've read it. It is false. And number two was the connection to the Maria Iannuzzi case. And I've now gone back and reviewed that case extensively through the grand jury records, through pretrial testimony, through the trial testimony, motions, police reports. He did not commit that crime.